My name is Nicole. I'm a producer for the Remembering Them podcast. The podcast is a platform for people to share stories and memories of their loved ones who have passed away. The podcast was created in memory of Dad, Bob Cecil. May he rest in peace. Your host, Mark, Ryan, and Luke acknowledge the rich history and importance of storytelling within the indigenous culture.
My name is Jorgi Skiing, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today. Today we're meeting in Meanjin, and those traditional owners are the Yagara and Turrbal people. And I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge my people, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and extend that acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.
Hello, Luke. Welcome back to the podcast.
Morning, Mark. Thanks for having me, mate.
Good to have you back, and Ryan, but he's not with us today. As date of release of this recording, 15th of April is World Art Day. So Ryan's,
there you go.
I don't know if you knew that, but Ryan is a avid art lover, and he's off celebrating World Art Day today.
Oh, art. I thought you said Heart Day. I was like, he does talk about his heart quite a
but
bit. He loves
equally loves art, A-R-T. So he's off to, I believe he's off visiting some galleries today. Appreciate it.
Good for him. Good for him. Must be nice just taking the day off on a Friday. So I love that for him. He says that he's busy with work, but you don't hear any more details than that. So I don't actually know if he does work.
No, big Leonardo da Vinci fan, and it's actually the day derives from his birthday. It's very popular with creatives and galleries. So Ryan's off with the other creatives at the galleries today. So good on him. Mate, let's get to our guessing game. To not keep our guests waiting today. 3 clues for you, as always. Play along at home. Clue number 1. We're after a city, by the way. Over half the population was born overseas. It is one of the most multicultural cities in the world, with more than 50% of residents born outside of this country. It's a rare statistic globally.
Niche. Diverse. Oh, let's go with Melbourne.
Not Melbourne. Good guess. I can see why you would have gone to Melbourne. Gone with Melbourne. You have been to this city, was what I was going to say. Clue number 2. Hopefully, you've got a guessed it at home before, Luke. Clue number 2. This city is home to one of the longest streets. Yonge Street was once recognised as the longest street in the world, stretching at nearly 2,000 kilometres or 1,242 miles, when including connected routes.
Yonge Street, did you say?
Yes.
Yonge Street. I've been here.
I don't know about Yonge Street, but the city, yes.
That's throwing me now. I want to stay with the culturally diverse city. Are we a bit more north than Melbourne? Are we in Sydney?
No, we're not in Sydney, but we are north. We're definitely north of Melbourne.
That narrows it down.
Okay, clue number 3. World's largest underground shopping complex is in this city. It's around 30 kilometres or 18 miles underground network of shops, restaurants, and walkways, the largest of its kind in the world.
Oh, we've had this clue before.
Oh, have we?
I'm pretty certain of it because I know it's Toronto.
It is Toronto. Well done, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Beneath the shop, the shop is called, I believe the stretch of shops is called Path. It's beneath downtown Toronto. Well done for remembering that clue. I don't remember giving that one. 3 interesting clues today. Hopefully you got it at home. So our guest today is a senior executive assistant in the healthcare industry. She lives with her husband and stepdaughter, has a passion for plus-size fashion and shares plus-size fashion content online, which led her to sharing content about her loved one that she's here with us today to discuss. Outside of fashion, she loves gym for her mental health, going to movies and traveling. She loves The Good Shark or disaster movie. Our guest today from Toronto in Ontario, Canada is Erin Szigeti. So welcome to the Remembering Them podcast officially, Erin. Thank you very much for joining us all the way over from Toronto in Canada.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on here. Sorry if I stumble through my introduction. If you'd like to jump in and just tell us straight away and jump in and tell us who we're talking about today, obviously what happened to them and their relationship to you.
Yeah, for sure. So today we'll be talking about my mom, Sheri Szigeti. She passed away in December 2019. She passed away from complications from sepsis, which is an infection of the blood. To this day, I don't think we really know exactly where the infection started. We were told by doctors that it was a kidney infection, but we kind of never really got answers. So she went into the hospital. So she passed away in December 2019, but she went into the hospital October 2019. I'll never forget it. Me and my dad and my sister were at a fall fair in Erin, Ontario, which is probably about 20 minutes outside of Toronto. And we got a call from our family doctor. And this was a weekend. This was like a Saturday. And we get a call. My dad gets the call and he says, I had to go to your house. And I went in and I grabbed Sheri and I rushed her to emerge. And so, I've moved out by this point. Obviously, I'm living with my husband. And so I didn't know, but my mom had been sick like a week before and they had done blood work. And so I guess when they got the blood results back, it was the weekend. And our the family doctor saw that my mom's blood was showing signs of sepsis. So he went to my house where my mom was and rushed in and got her and brought her to emerge. And I don't know if you know much about sepsis, but how sepsis shows up as it presents like a flu. It could, it doesn't always show in a way that people will know exactly what it is. So I think my dad just believed, my mom wasn't feeling good. She had a flu. She had a doctor's appointment. So when the doctor saw those results, he went and grabbed my mom and brought her to emerge. So when we got that call, we were at this fall fair and we rushed back to Scarborough, where my mom and my dad live. And we went straight into the ER to see my mom. And from there, it was just a lot of hospital visits. She was on antibiotics from October to December. I remember my brother saying to me, I have a bit of anxiety. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit. I have a lot of anxiety, something I've always had. And I remember my brother saying to me, don't Google sepsis. Just for your own peace of mind, just don't do it. And I remember thinking, okay, well, that's a bit of an alarm bell for me. But it was just a lot of ups and downs. It was a roller coaster for those 2 months. And then, we would get news that my mom was doing well. And then the next day would be, her blood pressure is really bad. And then the next day they would try different treatments. Like it was almost like the doctors didn't really know how to help my mom. And so eventually on the week before she died, I remember my dad was the primary caregiver, and me and my siblings would go to the hospital and help my dad and kind of give him a break. And it was the Tuesday. She died on a Thursday, and I went in on the Tuesday to give my dad some relief. And I remember going in and seeing my mom, and it was something that's going to live with me forever. She just wasn't coherent. She wasn't herself. She still mouthed, like she couldn't speak, but she did mouth, I love you. And like that, like my mom, Sheri Szigeti, like her, I'll talk about her a bit, but she's full of magic. And I just remember thinking, like, despite everything she's going through, she can't speak, she can't communicate, she's in pain, and she's still mouthing, I love you. So that'll always be with me. And then on the Thursday of that week, December 12th, 2019, she coded in the middle of the night, and the doctors kept her, I guess, on machines. So, we could go in the morning and say goodbye. So they, my dad called me and my 3 siblings and brought us all in. And we said goodbye. She passed away with her 4 kids and her husband, and her brother and my aunt, just like everyone that she loved surrounding her. But yeah, so hopefully that timeline makes sense. It's it's something that is very traumatic for me. So like, I think it is sometimes hard to retell that story.
Yeah, interesting that your brother, said don't Google sepsis, because one of the first things I did as well. You hear about it, and you hear there's that certain risk when you go into hospital, and there's people that sometimes get and recover and come off the back of it with certain issues as well. But then, I saw that 1 in 5, according to Google, it's responsible for deaths globally. 1 in 5 sepsis. So it's fairly common. Interesting. We haven't had, I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, but I don't believe we've had someone on the podcast that have lost a loved one to sepsis, despite how common it is. So that's super sad to hear. You mentioned you would describe your mother as magical. How else would you describe her to a stranger before she?
It's a great question. My mom had this energy about her. She could talk to anybody. Like I just remember us being in malls, being at the local pool, and she would talk to everybody for hours. Me and my siblings still joke that sometimes you'd be like, oh, I just want to go home, and mom would just be chatting. She just had this lovely energy that like everybody gravitated towards. She lit up a room. She knew how to talk to everybody. Like she just made a friend out of everyone. She made my childhood so magical. And I think she was just the warmest mama bear that there ever was. And, my dad often says to me, you guys are very lucky. Not everybody has a relationship like that with their mom. And I do realize, going through grief and dealing with this, you often see a lot of memes on the internet and things on Instagram that say like grief is the price of love, but it truly is. I had such a great love. Like I always say my mom was my soulmate, because we just were so connected. And so I think she definitely was just the warmest person you'd ever meet. You'd love her if you met her.
Physically, Erin, did you look alike?
Oh yeah. Well, my dad says that we do. I think like we both, like I have her blonde hair, her, her freckles. Me, her, and my aunt actually sound a lot alike on the phone. So I know that like sometimes my dad will call me Sheri, or like I'll be coming down the stairs of my family home, like before when my mom, was still with us, and my dad would be like, Share, and I'm like, oh, it's Erin. So I think there is a resemblance there. And when people tell me that, when I post her photos on Instagram, I take it as such a compliment, because I get to carry her with me, it's like that piece of her is still with me.
I mentioned in the intro, Erin, you sharing your love for plus size fashion, and then that led into sharing your grief journey with after your mum's passing. Has that helped?
This is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. Hey Luke and Ryan, life gets heavy sometimes, especially when grief hits. For me, that weight often shows up as anxiety.
Yeah, it's not always one big thing. Sometimes it's just life piling up, work, relationships, trying to hold it all together. Suddenly, I'm anxious and don't know why.
Totally. I used to think anxiety meant panic attacks, but for me, it's more like overthinking every choice or feeling like I'm never doing enough.
And it can even hit on good days. Out of nowhere, I'm spiraling over things that haven't even happened yet.
It's easy to feel alone in it, but you're not.
That's why we're talking about our paid partner, BetterHelp.
BetterHelp connects you with credentialed therapists who can help manage anxiety and more.
Most people go to BetterHelp for anxiety, and 69% feel better after just 6 weeks.
Getting started is simple. Fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a therapist. If it's not a fit, you can switch at any time.
Their support team is super responsive, and with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 Trustpilot rating, it's a platform you can count on.
So let BetterHelp help manage your anxiety so it doesn't manage you.
Click the link below or go to betterhelp.com/rememberingthem for 10% off your first month.
Sharing my mom.
Yeah,
yes, for sure. I started on Instagram just posting fashion just because it was fun. I kind of always have posted my outfits like before, like when there was MySpace. I don't know if I'm like aging myself here, but
I remember MySpace and Ryan, who's normally with us, I think it was a little bit before Luke's time, but no, I'm with you there.
Excuse me, I had MySpace. I was on MySpace. I still use MySpace.
Wait, there's still MySpace? I didn't know that
I don't actually know.
I don't know.
Wait, if
Probably
I can see my old page, that would be so cool. But yeah, I used to post my outfit photos, you know, on MySpace, on Facebook. And so I'd see all these creators doing it. And I'm like, you know what? Let me try. Let me, you know, get a voice out there for the plus size girls, you know, the girls who aren't represented. And I remember I started having panic attacks in July 2024. And I wasn't able to post content daily of my fashion. Like I was dealing with, I thought I was dying. My doctor's like, no, this is just panic. And so I remember thinking, I can't post about my fashion right now. Let me post about my anxiety. Let me post about what I'm going through with my mom. And I at first was like, is this cringy? Is this, you know, like, it's hard to post about grief. It's a vulnerable thing. It's, you know, something that people who haven't lost somebody sometimes aren't very comfortable with. But the reaction I got in the community I started to build really helped me heal. You know, talking to people who've lost their moms, who, you know, have felt like I have, who've, you know, gotten, I guess, have had things like panic attacks come up years later, like anything that comes along with grief. Having someone to talk to and having that community has really helped me. And also having my siblings and my dad, like I'm very privileged to have such a big family that it was just, you know, we all grieve differently, but we all have each other. So that I think that is as much as Instagram has and like my community, my online community has helped, I think having my like core family unit has helped a lot as well.
Yeah. Speaking of things that help, and I was nodding a lot there because we talk a lot on this podcast about community and connecting with people, whether that is in the physical with the people you have around you. Some people don't have that, so they do find it online with people that are either like-minded or in terms of they've been through something similar, or they're just going through their own grief journey, whilst it might be different, still being able to share in that. Do you have any advice based on either experiences or people in your community that may help someone else that might go through something similar to yourself with the loss of a parent?
That's a good question. I'm a very extroverted person. I think I wear my heart on my sleeve. If I'm going through something, my boss knows, my friends know, my husband know, like I like to share, and that helps me. So my advice would be, even if you don't want to share your story, if that's something that you are dealing with, I think finding someone to share your story with, like finding a confidant, finding a friend, finding someone who's been there, who's been through it, just to listen, I think is super important. Going through this, I think what happens with grief is after the funeral, sometimes people don't want to say, you know, how are you doing? Like, you know, they don't want to talk about, like, I want to talk about my mom all the time. And so I think finding someone who can check in with you, and even if you don't have that, like in your, you know, in your real life, but if you can find someone online that kind of you can relate to, I think that that's like something that can really help. And even therapy, like it took me a long time to start therapy, and I think it maybe had stopped the panic attacks before they started. But I think getting that out, I think grief has a funny way of coming out regardless. So really trying to find a way to talk about it or process it, because you can't really run from it. You really have to feel it.
It's a good point. I think we hear that a lot. Maybe it's a little bit biased because people are on here to talk about their loved ones, but in general, a lot of people that come onto this podcast say, we actually do want to talk about, you know, our mom, our friend, our sister, you know, whoever it is. So I think it is an important message that people do want to talk about their loved ones that have passed. Whilst it might be, you know, painful and they might be in the midst of grief, it is important that they do want to talk about them. And on that point, Erin, do you have a favorite story or memory that comes to mind of Sheri, or one that stands out?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I find that a lot of my memories with my mom that I love are like the mundane ones. Are the ones, because my mom made like the simplest things like super magical to me. So, she would pick us up on Thursday nights after school, and she would, it'd be payday for her. So she would say, let's go to the mall. We'll get McDonald's, or like KFC, and, you guys can pick out something. And we would be so stoked. So when I think of all my memories with my mom, it's like, us every Thursday going to the mall, or like, me and my mom used to go to a beach in Pickering, which is a bit outside of Toronto. She sometimes would pull me out of class, and we would go tan on the beach. So it's memories like that. Like it's funny that, it's not like trips to Disneyland that are like my favorite memories with my mom. It's just like us doing our daily things, having her here, having her name pop up on my phone, talking to her every day. Like I still have her conversations in my WhatsApp. And if I'm brave, I go in there and look at them, but sometimes it can be incredibly triggering, but sometimes it can just be so nice. But yeah, like I think like everything that she did was just so amazing, like I do have a funny story. I remember one time I came home from work, and I think I'd gotten broken up with, or maybe I think I asked a guy out and he said no. Something happened with a guy. And I remember coming home, I was probably like 21. And I went into, the kitchen, and my mom was in there, and I'm crying and I'm upset. I'm like, Mom, so and so, broke up with me, blah, blah, blah. She's like, let's go for a drive. I'm like, okay. So all of a sudden, like I'm crying, like my face is in my hands, and I look up and we're at the LCBO, which is where you buy like liquor and wine here in Ontario. And she looks at me and she's like, I thought you might want some wine. And I was like, this is how, and she's like, yeah, I thought wine might help. So like, she was my best friend, she was more than a mom. Like I could tell her anything. She was just the best.
I think it's a great point you make, Erin, around I don't want to refer to it as mundane, but you said that, so I'll say the
Mundane,
mundane thing.
not a bad word. Maybe I should use
No, but it's, I think the point being that it's not always these big, huge trips or specific, memories. It's often that we find that when we're talking to people, it's those little things that people miss, and they're the memories that people bring up, and those little funny stories that you just share there. They're not the big extravagant. You just mentioned trips to Disneyland or trips overseas or wherever it might be. Often it's we used to, yeah, as you said, go to the mall after, on payday when she got paid from work. And what did she do for work while we're talking about that? What was her career?
Actually, it's funny. She was a executive assistant at a hospital. And that's what I do. I'm a senior executive assistant, actually at the same hospital my mom did work at.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because I have like a bit of both my dad and my mom in me, where my mom was very carefree. She just owned a room. Like nothing really worried my mom. And my dad was a bit more on the anxious side. And I remember when I first got my first job as an EA at a hospital here in Toronto. And I remember being so worried about work all the time. And I'd call my mom and she'd say, like, just don't think about work right now. Like it's 5 p.m. Work doesn't exist right now, and I think that was something that like I always think like anytime I'm worried about work or I'm worried about anything, like I just hear my mom's voice in my head just telling me like, relax, don't worry about it. You worry so much. So yeah. It's funny that we have the same job.
Is there other things that she would say, Erin, that reminds you of her, either a quote or saying or something that she would always say to you, or has said to you that stands out?
Yeah, like there's so many things that she she used to say to us when we were little, when we would be like going to sleep or whatever. She'd always say, who loves you? And we would joke and we would say like daddy, or like nanny, like my mom's mom, and she'd be like, no, I love you. And so when she passed away, my friends actually got me a necklace, and they had it engraved with who loves you. And it's actually on her grave. And so, like, my siblings and I kind of keep that alive. Like, we have some artwork that we've had made with all of us, like, have one where it says, "Who loves you, Mama Bear?" So yeah, that, and just like other things that sometimes I'll say something and I'm like, whoa, that reminded me of mom. Or that, like, because you grow up with someone for 34 years. I think I have a lot of her in me. So sometimes I'll just say something like, whoa, sounds exactly like mom.
Was was your mum witty? I'm imagining her witty, or maybe no? Was she
No, yeah,
funny?
yeah, no, very witty, very
Oh,
funny.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. My dad is a chemical engineer and he's a very quiet man. He's very logical. He's very rational. And my mom was this like blonde, bubbly, like loved shopping, outgoing woman. And I'm like, how did you two meet? Like, how did you two work? Like, I just, because my dad's so quiet and my mom's so loud, but I guess opposites attract. Oh yeah, my mom was hilarious. She always had people laughing.
It's a great question. How did they meet? Do you know?
Yeah. So my dad was going to Waterloo for chemical engineering, and he was going to these house parties in Toronto. So my mom grew up in the beaches in Toronto, and all her friends were lived in the beaches. And there was a party that a chemical engineer from, I think, U of T would host, and somehow I guess my dad would come in on the weekends and would go to these parties. And this person was their lease was up, I think, after like 5 months, and so they would have these parties every Friday, and my mom and my dad would talk every time at these parties. And I remember my mom telling me, if he doesn't ask me out by this last party, I'll never see this man again, because he doesn't run in the same crowd. He doesn't live in Toronto. And she's like, I remember saying to my best friend, like, if he doesn't ask me out, that's it. I'll never see him again. And she's like, it was the last minute of the last party before, their lease was up. They weren't going to have another one of these house parties. And I'm putting on my coat and he comes up to me and he asks me on a date. And I'm like, isn't that funny? I'm like, I wouldn't exist if he didn't get the courage to ask you on a date, So yeah, they're very different. And I do think I have kind of the best of both of them, I hope. My mom definitely had this crazy magical energy. So, I think they both do, actually. My dad's a pretty neat guy.
Erin, you mentioned before Sheri saying to you around, you're not at work, don't think about it anymore. Are there other lessons that you learned from her?
Yeah, for sure. Something that, like, growing up, I don't know if you ever heard of the term fear of missing out. I kind of have always had that. And I remember my mom always saying to me, your time will come. Sorry. Because I used to go to her and I'd say, oh, I didn't get invited to this party, or so-and-so has this jacket. Like, I know it's not, jealousy is not a very good human trait to talk about. You don't really want to be someone who is like that, but you're human. And growing up, I'd go to her and I'd say these, Jessica has this, or so-and-so has this. And I remember my mom saying, your time will come. Like, you have to be happy for what you have, and you be happy for your friends. And as I get older, that's something that I always say to myself, because it's so hard not to compare, especially in the age of social media, and trying to buy a house in Toronto is not easy. So I know that I always hear her say that to me, like, oh my gosh, your time will come. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Like a tongue twister.
Yeah, it is.
The Remembering Them podcast is supported by My Legacy Message. How do you want to be remembered? My Legacy Message provides a service that delivers a personalized keepsake video to your loved ones, often as a surprise after you pass. My Legacy Message, be remembered.
Yeah, it is. She could have made it a little bit easier, that lesson.
Yeah.
How will you and the family remember Sheri going forward? Is there something that you do or will do or have done to preserve her legacy?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. My mom loved Swiss Chalet. Luke, I know you mentioned you've been to Toronto. I don't know if you've ever heard of Swiss Chalet.
I
You're
I do remember the Swiss Shell. It's funny, even earlier you said the LCBO. It just triggered me, and I was like, "Oh yeah!" And then I just thought of Dollarama as well, nichely.
Oh, Dollarama. Yeah.
Yeah, but
The
I never went to Swiss Chalet, unfortunately.
Dollarama. So in around November, around Christmas time, they have something called the festive special. And so it's basically like a Christmas dinner. And it is, like a quarter chicken with cranberry sauce and stuffing. And my mom's birthday was November 17th. And so and my sister's birthday was November 21st, or is November 21st. So we always for their birthdays would go and get the festive special. So now every year we still do that. Even if we can't all get together, like I know me and my brother went this year to one near me, but that's something that, we always do. And even just telling stories about my mom, I'm always talking about her. Some people have said like maybe that keeps you like it holds you back, but I actually think that it helps me process grief. So I don't know, but yeah, that's definitely something that we do for her. And just, at Christmas time, my dad will put up all our decorations the way my mom used to decorate. And my dad still has the house that we grew up in. And so just being there sometimes, like it brings like her energy is still there.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. How's your dad coping, Erin? Obviously, it's a difficult one with, and we've gone through that obviously with mum after dad's passing.
Yeah.
They're fairly similar around the timelines for yourself. So I'm interested from that perspective how your dad's coping and how you and I think you mentioned your brother continue to talk about your mum with your dad as well.
Yeah, so I think my dad is doing really well. My dad loves to travel. Growing up, he always worked abroad. He worked in Belgium when I was in high school. He's always been a traveler. So he has a bucket list. And so he really focuses on that. I think, I don't know. I remember when my mom passed, I remember my dad in the hospital saying, this was supposed to be our golden years. I think that's something that, you work your whole life and you think I'm going to retire with my wife and we're going to do all that stuff together. I think that was really hard for my dad. Seeing the man that you grew up thinking is invincible, the strongest man who's never shown emotion in front of you, who's always been like the strong force, sad and upset, and seeing him, cry at my mom's bedside, I think was extremely hard. But seeing how he has kept us all together, me and my three siblings, like he stepped into the mom role. He's like, not that he wasn't, he was always the provider, but he was always around, but he was like the provider in a sense, and my mom was kind of like the emotional comfort. And so now I think my dad is trying to figure out, okay, even though my daughter's almost 40, I still need that emotional comfort. So he's really learned to text as much as my mom did. um, I think sometimes I'm like, okay, I'll leave dad alone. Like, whereas my mom, I'd be texting her till 3 a.m.
All the time. Yeah.
But with my dad, I know he's, that very quiet, man who just wants to watch his show sometimes. So I'm like, okay, I better leave him alone. But he seems to be doing good. Like he's got his hobbies. He cycles. He travels. He visits his mom. So my Naimama, my grandmother, is living in Welland, which is a 3-hour drive outside of Toronto. And so him and his little tortoise shell cat are doing great. Him and Shelby. Yeah.
Did your mum love travel as well?
No, my mom did not. My mom she liked her places that she would go. This is going to sound funny. Erie, Pennsylvania. They would always go shopping there, and we would go back to school shopping there because there was no tax on clothes. Or like Florida, she'd go to Florida. But no, my dad is definitely the traveler.
What things did she love?
What did she love? My mom loved, my mom did love fashion. I think that's where I get my keen fashion sense from. She loved fashion. She loved, she'll kill me. She will definitely kill me. She loved going to bingo, especially if lightning comes down and kills me right now.
We know
She loved
what's
bingo.
happened. Yeah.
She would go to bingo, yeah, with like my aunt, or like, you know, even like me and my husband went with her a couple times. She loved music, like Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons. She loved learning about the royal family and the Kennedys. Like she has huge, like I think it was a couple weeks ago, I went to the house to get a book about the Kennedys, because there's a show right now about the Kennedys that's very popular. And so yeah, she liked going to the library and getting her books, and just spending time with her kids. Like she really loved spending time with us and chatting with us.
I want to ask around the bingo thing. So why would she kill you? Because it's too old or uncool? Why would she?
I think old.
Yeah, okay.
And my mom, you know, like my mom was a very pretty lady. She was very cool and hip. And so I think she wouldn't want people to know, I think.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
my dad's gonna listen and he's gonna be like,
in defense of your mum, friends and I, as a joke, to be fair, when we were in our I'd say mid to late 20s, went to a bingo night or day, would have been with the oldies, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. It was a lot faster than I was expecting, and they're into it. You know, they've got their markers and their, you know, whatever they're set out, how they want to be set out, and they're focused and they're in. But it was a lot of fun. So I'm you know, I'm not going to pay out.
I remember going with her, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is not as easy as
it's
I
a
thought.
thing. It's full
and
on.
you get
Yeah.
shut. Like people shushed me. I'm like, oh, I don't like this. I can't talk the whole time.
Exactly.
Serious.
They are honed in, bingo
Very
goers. So,
serious.
yeah, it's a serious game. So no, good on her. No shade thrown from me with her enjoyment of bingo. That's for sure. Erin, one final question for you for the main part of the podcast. Often our most difficult one. So be kind to yourself with this one. And granted, it's been, what's that, 7 years, right? About 7 years since Sheri's passed. If she was in front of you today, if your mum was in front of you today, what would you say to her?
Oh, that took me out for a second. Oh man, I want to think about this for a second. What would I say? I think I would say, I love you. And I hope I'm making you proud. I hope that's something that I do think about a lot. You know, as when someone passes away, you know, I was 34 when she passed away, and I've lived so much life since then. And I often wonder, I look around at, you know, things I've accomplished, and I often wonder, like, mom, are you proud? Or like, you know, like I would just want to kind of catch her up on everything and kind of ask her just like questions about some of my, this is going to sound so silly, but about my reality shows, and just ask her questions and be like, have you been catching up on this stuff? Because it's something that we shared. But yeah, I think I would ask her, you know, are you proud?
Thank you for sharing that, being vulnerable with that. Well, I won't. I have to ask this. Yeah, we can't. What were the shows? What are the shows? What are the reality shows that you and your mum would love?
Do you guys have Bravo in Australia, like Real Housewives?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we do have that, probably through another network, but yeah, not something that I watch. I think Ryan watches Real Housewives, but yeah, no, it's not something that Luke and I watch, but we are familiar with it because there's different spin-offs, isn't there? There's just Real Housewives of whatever city. You know, there's different spin-offs, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that was, you know, it's supposed to be a serious note, but that's something I do think about a lot. Is I think me and my mom are besties, right? So we would just catch up on everything. So I think if I could have her back for 5 minutes, it would just, I would want, you know, I would tell her I love her and just have that catch up session, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
that 5 minutes you'd have a lot to catch up on with the reality show. So I'm sure that catch up would
Yes.
would spill out for a long time. So, Erin, thank you very much for joining us and sharing stories and memories of Sheri, and also the journey that you've been on and what has helped you. I'm sure the conversation will help someone else out there, and we really appreciate you giving up your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So, Luke, that was Erin from Toronto. Erin Szigeti. I think I butchered it in the intro, so apologies, Erin, and Sheri, and your dad as well, Szigeti.
I have to. I didn't. Now that I've heard that last name, we should have asked the origin. I want to put my money on Polish. But
yeah, I'll back you in there. I think that would be correct. Erin, I'm sure
I was going to say, I was going to say, comment and tell us if we're idiots or not. But loved that. That was a great chat. Hearing about her mum, I loved the story about going to the LCBO as well. And another question I didn't ask: what did she buy? I want to hear what she. What
was it? What was her go-to drink? Maybe that's some more commenting. Sorry, Erin, you're gonna have to jump on.
You have to come back for another episode.
Answer these questions.
That was great.
Sheri certainly sounded magical from the way that Erin spoke about her, and it was great hearing about the stories and memories, and obviously sad hearing about the sepsis. Passing away from sepsis. You do hear about it, that it's a massive risk, and it's something that hospitals, the healthcare system worry about. But as I said in the podcast, it's not something that I don't think that we've had someone on the podcast that has passed away due to sepsis, even though it's, from a quick Google search, that is quite common.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's really hard that you don't, like Erin said, where did it come from? Where was the origin? Where was the starting point? Because that's what you want to know when someone gets sick, and then let alone, it goes a bit further down the track and gets a bit more serious. But it's a hard one because there's just no answer for you.
No, that's right. Yeah. No, but it's wonderful the work that Erin continues to do with sharing. She's got quite a decent social media following with her fashion, but also sharing her grief following her mum's passing. So I think that's an important piece. I think there was important discussions and lessons that can be taken from that podcast episode. So if you do, if that has resonated with you, or you think it will help someone maybe going through something similar, please share that episode, and also any other episodes and the podcast in general. A reminder to give us a rating and review, 5 stars ideally. That would be fantastic on your preferred listening platform, so we can show up on anyone that's looking for a grief-related discussion. A reminder that we have all of our socials, which we will tag Erin in, and we mentioned that she has to comment those last couple of questions that we had further. We didn't ask. What were they, like? Origin, family origin, and mum's drink order or her go-to.
What you got from that LCBO on that trip after the breakup, the painful breakup?
We'd love to hear about that. So on the socials, follow us on all of our socials, mainly Instagram, but we're also on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Reminder that we have the BetterHelp partnership as well. So betterhelp.com/remembering them. Erin did mention in our chat that she did eventually get into therapy. So it's a partnership that if you are needing to discuss or talk to a credentialed therapist about anything, that partnership, by following that link, will give you 10% off your first month subscription. Reminder, we also have the My Legacy message service, mylegacymessage.com.au, where you can record a video message for your loved ones, delivered to them often as a surprise after you pass. And last but not least, Patreon. Please jump on our Patreon, patreon.com/remembering them podcast. You can hear exclusive chats that we have with all of our guests. So Erin, there we delved into, we went far off track, and we started to talk about coffee and the differences.
Pretty much just Tim Hortons.
It was pretty much a Tim Hortons coffee conversation, but jump on there if you want to hear about that. That is behind the exclusive chats are behind a paywall, $6 a month US, about $9 a month Australian. I don't know what they, probably somewhere in between in Canadian dollars, $7 probably, $7.50.
But their price, their fuel is going to be cheaper than ours, put it that way.
Definitely. So jump on Patreon, please, and give us a follow. There is also a lot of free Patreon content as well, that we have some 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 snippets around questions that guests ask, and some Dumb Ways to Die episodes and interesting persons episodes. So jump on Patreon. Good way to support the podcast, whether that be free or if you're in a position to support us, that would be fantastic. Look, I think that covers off on everything. Looking forward to having Ryan hopefully back for the next one. I know he mentioned in that chat with Erin that he does love his Real Housewives of Dallas or Sydney or Melbourne, wherever it is. So Ryan is a big Real Housewives reality guy as well.
I don't know if we have any Mormon listeners, but I saw Real Housewives of Mormon Life or
Oh
something.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ryan's
just
over that one too.
yeah, he loves that. So he'll be I think he's tuned in now while he's checking out some art galleries. So good for you, Ryan. Enjoy that.
Ryan, hopefully you've enjoyed International World or Art Day, whatever the official name is.
Tasty guy.
Enjoy that, yeah. We look forward to having you back, Ryan and Luke. Thank you very much for joining me for that important chat. It was great having you. And until next time, love you. Bye.
Thank you, mate.
The Remembering Them podcast is created for entertainment purposes. Mark, Ryan, and Luke are not licensed mental health professionals. If you would like to discuss your mental well-being, several resources are available in Australia. Information about these services are available in the podcast notes. Please take the time to contact your loved one today and tell them how much you appreciate and love them.